What's up? What's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Ooh, what's up, guys? Hello. What's up, Ananya? What's up, Mukul? What's up, Siddharth? What's up to myself? What's up, guys? Hey, Mayur. What's up from C10? Yo. Hey, Kritik. What's up, Prithvi? Hi, Isha. What's up, Jaspreet? What's up, guys? We're here for stream tonight. Um, this stream, unlike the last two streams, which were like, designed career counseling, I was like, let's take the opposite direction, right? Let's swing the opposite direction, and let's do a little bit more of a casual stream. We can keep talking about career stuff, talking about that. That's great. But let's also do some casual stuff, right? Like, let's have a fun stream. Now, how much fun we can have, I don't know, but at least I need to do that, right? At least we need to give it a shot. Like let's swing the other direction and see where that goes. Sup, hello folks. Hey Aman, what's up Ritvik? Chris, what's up? Yeah, Monday blues. Okay. Excited for Wednesday's session. Yep. Me too. Folks, the title of today's stream, right? I want you to real quick check it out. The world is weird. Is it possible to stay normal? Um Do you guys have an answer to this? Do you guys have an answer to this before we jump in and explore this question? Do you guys have an answer to this? I want to just hear your input before we begin. Let's get in a little bit in the warm up, okay? Let's warm up a little bit, get in the zone, and then we'll go deeper. Because I have some stuff to show you. I have some stuff I want to discuss. I have some interesting stuff to go through today. But before we do, I want to hear your perspective in the chat. Batao jaldi se. Just chillin', chill stream, chill stream. Good guys. It's cool that we can do a chill stream on a Monday. Chalo, let's get glasses off. Let me look at you guys for a sec. Okay. So, folks, the reason I said this, okay, is I don't know if you guys if you guys saw this as well, but a couple days ago, it came to my attention. Couple days ago, fuck the couple days ago, okay, it just came to my attention that I had a big realization in the last few days or in the last week or two. And the realization was that we need to be having fun. Okay. And that sounds, maybe that sounds too stupid. Okay. Because it did to me a little bit. But I've been geeking out about this one thing. Okay. Let me show you guys. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's happening in the Kumbh Mela. Did you guys see this? I think this is probably a interesting place to start today's stream. You guys aware of this news story that's going around right now? So there's this guy, okay, Abhay Singh. He is, let me just say the story so far. Abhay Singh he's from IIT. He went to IIT, got in with the rank 700, did aerospace engineering, got into Masters of Design, right? Went to IIT Bombay again, this time for design and visual communication. started an agency. So check this out, right up here. Started an agency, and then he worked at startups. So he worked at Bombay Shaving Company. Clearly, the kind of stuff he was doing is, a lot of creative work behind the scenes, like replaced agency, lowered costs, right? Like stuff that's very relatable. Um, Digital UI designer. So then he, I guess, worked remotely for a bit, but then moved to Canada, working as a UI UX designer. And guys, this is so fucking cool. I saw this and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Um, I watched his video and I just love the guy, bro. He's just so. Um, but anyways, I posted this, okay, and we were having some discussions around this, which is, for example, Shreya says, "How's this even possible, right? Unexplainable character arc." And I thought about that for a second, and I was like, "Shit, is it really that unexplainable?" Because it didn't feel very unexplainable to me, right? It felt like my curiosity went through the roof as soon as I heard about this, and for different reasons also. Like, I think, let's open YouTube, right? Of course, okay, come back to YouTube later. I think the dominant story is just how can this guy who went to IIT just sacrifice everything, right? A big sense of sacrifice. And I think for a lot of people, the UI UX design thing is not even on their mind, right? They're more like, how can an IITian do this? But really, guys, is it that difficult to think about? Because if you think about this, right, to even, like, for example, I studied for JE, I attempted the JE exam, and somewhere halfway through, I realized I'm not going to make it, but I still gave it a shot. So I know what it feels like. And to me, it's like, to really get into JE, in the end, JE, it's a strong selection as well, right? Like the number of seats, the people that get in, it's a strong selection thing. It's not really that IIT makes you brilliant or something, but it's like they select for a very specific type of thing. And what was interesting to me is even attempting the JE at that young age and clearing it requires a sense of sacrifice, right? You got to sacrifice everything else, and you got to really lean into studying, studies, okay? And so for me, I was like, okay, maybe this is sacrifice for another form. And then I started thinking about the design side of things, right? Like, for example, Rahul said, design is indeed a stressful job. And I thought about this for a second and I was like, design is not a stressful job. Design is maybe one of the least stressful jobs, right? And again, I'll say that with, I know I got to put some salt on that, right? In the sense that what's stressful is, hmm, okay, question to you guys. Is design really a stressful job? Because I'm seeing both sides, okay? To me, having, see, the reason, thing is I strongly relate, right? Because a lot of career paths, like his path, a lot of it overlapping with mine, right? So I'm strongly relating here. In the sense that for me, design was the opposite of stress, in the sense that when I was in college, right? So I was studying computer science. I did that whole JE grind, didn't get into JE, AI all of this, and got a good college though, right? I got into Manipal, and somehow I got a good rank also in that entrance exam. Now, I was really, I loved the fact that I got into Manipal also because there was a fun aspect of it, right? Which is, you get to stay away from home, you get to live in hostels. But it was a grind once I was in, which is the first 1 or 2 years of engineering for me. How did it feel if I think back now? Felt very anxiety inducing because um, I was really trying to get myself to care and care about the subject material. Now, let's just say the first year of engineering, those of you who've been through it, there's like we do common subjects, right? So everybody goes through the common syllabus, whatever. I don't even want to think of the subjects. I don't even remember them. But things like engineering drawing, things like MES, even forgetting the name, electronics, electrical, like you have a bunch of common subjects. And for me, first year of college, I was like, I'm finding it very hard to care about this stuff. and I'm having to put all this energy into caring about it because it's important for my future. Now, year one passes. Now I'm in second year of college. Second year of college, it actually started computer science subjects, and I was super excited about it. But then the minute I started doing it, I was like, fuck, I'm having to force myself to care about a lot of stuff. Okay. And where I'm going with this is, yes, there was interesting parts from computer science, right? For example, I knew that the future for somebody who does computer science engineering, simple, I was like, they can make apps, and clearly apps are fun. Clearly, Mark Zuckerberg building Facebook and it actually succeeding is a signal that it can be done. And now I'm super excited about it. But I was really forcing myself to care about the rest of the stuff. And for me, when I found design, little bit it felt like a sense of relief. That's how it felt like. And you know why? It's because I didn't have to force myself to care, right? In the sense that there was enough that was exciting that would keep me coming. For example, Photoshop, right? I knew the first step, at least back then. And when I say back then, this is 2012, 2013. I knew Photoshop was the first thing I needed to learn. And it didn't feel scary because I was thinking about, fuck, if I do Photoshop, I'll be able to design t-shirts and I can sell t-shirts. Like just a little bit of excitement to keep it going. And I thinking back now, right? I'm just really in that zone where I'm like, was design stressful? Like now I'm thinking back, it's like I'm like 11 years in, okay? Like as since I've been working as a designer, since I started on this journey. And coming back here, right? Thinking about this, I'm like, is design stressful? Like, and I didn't have an answer for this, right? Because if I'm thinking back, it was challenging. Like there were a lot of times where I had no clue what to do next. It was uncertain, which is I was like, should I do this or should I do this? And sometimes the answer was, let's do both. Um, the stress usually came from being forced to do something that I didn't want to do, or somehow I had convinced myself to do it. Like, I can tell you this, I, for the first, for the maybe the first 5 years as a designer, I little bit felt like I was doing something wrong because I was like, how is it that JE was much harder than what I'm doing now? Even though I'm making money, even though I'm having fun, even though my career trajectory seems up, am I missing something? Like somewhat, I felt like the amount of ragada, like how much I forced myself to care about something, and this was during JE, like just entrance exam. Like, oh fuck, you got to play this achievement game. You're competing with all of India, all these narratives, like this super kids sitting in quota, and you're competing with them. I never felt that stressed about design, like straight up. And so here's the thing though. What I'm telling you is also kind of not true. Okay? I'm presenting the first side of it. Later. So after, it's not that design was stressful. Okay? So to draw the line, so started freelancing in college, got a job in a startup paying me really good money, like more than I could have gotten through placements. Fun, having fun. I know my portfolio could be better, my projects could be better. I was only 3 years, 2, 3 years into a designer, and I'm like, fuck, I need to do more projects because I'll get good the better projects I do. Like, I can't. Here's the thing about design also that I felt, right? I kind of felt that when it came to padhai, when it came to studying for entrance exams, there's no feedback in the sense that the success, like, will you crack this entrance exam, is like a year or two later. And guys, like, I have a little bit of a weird relationship with entrance exams, right? Because it kind of defined a very big part of my childhood, like doing that. But then a couple years later in 2017, I ended up joining an academy very early. And so I'd also spent a bunch of years on the other side, which is designing these systems for students, for learners, people who are attempting these exams, right? And so Unacademy one of our biggest categories starting out was UPSC, right? Of course, JE was also a big one. A lot of state exams, government exams. And from a design point of view, when I was designing stuff for Unacademy, I had a lot of sense of curiosity, which is I knew I had been through that exam exact journey before, but it was not stressful. It was more of the thing that I would sometimes feel when I was designing these test taking thing. I was like, in some ways, for me to be designing this app that is helping you guys on competitive exams, right? In fact, a very weird thing happened to me. I met somebody from 10K Designers, and they told me that when they were studying for entrance exams, they used the Unacademy app. And they were like, today I'm a designer, but then I used the Unacademy app and I could tell that the design was very different. And I was like, wow, these guys have such a different design. And then later I found out that you were working there when designing it. And later I enrolled in the cohort. And I found that super fascinating. But coming back to, but coming here, right? Design is not a stressful job in the sense that what is stressful is the pressure we put on ourselves to achieve. Okay. And again, don't take this as from a place of authority, right? I'm not trying to teach you something. I'm not trying to. I'm exploring, right? I'm thinking out loud. Design is not a stressful job. It's more of the pressure we put on ourselves to achieve. That is actually stressful, right? So, for example, when we're let's say 4 hours into a project, right? And we're designing some stuff. You guys understand the concept of flow state, right? Like you're in the flow of things, you're just doing stuff. And that's not stress, it's more of you're just immersing, right? Like I talked about this diagram in one of the previous, I think just the last stream. I think the anxiety and stress usually comes when you have here, right? When your skills, like let's just look at it from a very analytical point of view, right? Like we'll talk about the emotional side of this, but analytical point of view, um, anxiety and fear comes when we are thinking about the outcome, in the sense that we have some level of skills and there's some challenge ahead of us, right? And there is this fear of failure, anxious. Now, typically when you're designing, like ideally you again, I don't know how accurate this diagram is, right? It just resonates with me because I kind of see the relationship between these things. But let's go back to our inquiry, okay? We're doing this inquiry here, which is what was the scene? So something I want to show you guys, right? Let's go to uh, so what's so interesting about Abhay Singh, okay? And they call him a IIT Baba, but to be honest, to me, it's like fucking design Baba, bro. You're like UI UX design Baba, right? I mean, it's obviously not as catchy as IIT Baba. But what was interesting to me is Abhay has a bunch of stuff online, right? So, for example, I checked out his. Okay, I found Abhay's Behance. So, this is so interesting because it feels way more relatable. Okay, but anyways, you guys, I want to draw this connection here. Okay, we are actually looking at Abhay Singh's portfolio, and now again, I don't know if there's. See, I'm not trying to make a specific point. I'm just exploring. But something he mentioned in let's see if it's here. What is this the one? Okay, I don't want to watch the whole thing. But anyway, I had a very interesting time. I went through Abhay's portfolio. It was very interesting to go through. And one thing that he says relate that I related to the most, right? Or rather the part of his journey. Anyway, just going through some of the other comments here. The main thing that came to mind, right? Now again, I've spoken about this to people IRL multiple times. So I think the point is the reason I put today's title of the stream as well, right? Which is it uh, possible to stay normal in this weird world? And something that the big question to stay with is what is normal? What is normal? I think design is a very interesting as a field, like just drawing these connections, right? I think design is very interesting as a field because we are asked to question things from a very actionable point of view, as in why do certain things happen, right? Root cause. We kind of question things in terms of what and how do things happen, right? Like a little bit like analysis, digging deeper into the layers. And I think one angle that I was also thinking about um, is actually rather than stress, maybe it's also this idea that design, a lot of people feel disappointed by design after they get into it, right? And so, coming back to this idea I was saying earlier about stress, I don't think I felt stress. I just felt like I'm missing something in my design journey. I didn't feel a lot of stress. Yeah, there's things like deadlines, right? But I didn't feel stress. What I felt more of was this. Have you guys heard this concept of eustress? EUSTRESS, right? Like, let's do definitions. Have you guys heard of this concept of eustress, which is moderate or normal psychological stress, interpreted as being beneficial, right? And so, usually when it came to design, like I felt eustress, right? Which is, I know that as a designer, I need to change something. I need to create something. I knew that this thing I create might not be accepted by the world. Like, for example, the client might say they hate it. Ideally, I should have understood it better, or, you know, but it's this, right? Mayur, I think you're straight up. You're right about this, which is it's not because of stress. It's because he found a higher purpose in life and he surrendered himself to God. Now, those of you who don't believe in God or whatever, right? It's a slightly difficult one to unpack. And talking just purely from the psychological side of it, this story, the fact that it's going viral in India, I think it intersected with people or it rubbed people in very different ways. On one hand, people see this as a cautionary tale. It's like, bro, if I don't figure my shit out, I'm going to be here. On the other hand, most of the people I spoke to looked at this as, wow, bro, I'm glad somebody's doing it. In the sense that in the sense that I think as a designer, one thing that we are very attuned to is creating stuff. And the most interesting part about design as a journey is how closely your emotions are tied with it and how you are expected to understand them rather than avoid them, right? Let me just expand on that for a sec. A lot of jobs, they have this default frame of it's supposed to be bad. Like for example, let's say something like what's the stereotype, right? Like something like you're in finance, like let's say you're working at Wall Street. Oh, it's supposed to be bad. Like it's supposed to be stressful. Like you're supposed to do 80 hours thing, obviously, right? Um, and I think with jobs, the thing that's scary to a lot of people is it's just the roller coaster of emotions associated with it, right? Like I think that transition from school to college to job is a sense of you have a lot of responsibility. So, for example, let's say when we're teenagers, we have a lot of responsibility for, oh, bro, you need to be thinking about your career, or like you need to be studying, or you should need to be doing all this. Um, but we don't have any control. Like as a teenager, you probably can't even decide your own schedule. You can't decide who to connect with, who to talk to, like make your own, go on your own side quests or main quests. So, teenager to college, your sense of responsibility increases, but also your sense of control ideally also increases, right? Like just teenager to college, you now have more sense of control in your life. You're like, okay, like let's say you're in the hostel, you're like, okay, now I can control my schedule. I can control a little bit. Like you still have to follow this college's rule, but you get some sense of control. Now, college to job, I think, or here's my sense of it, I think we are given a lot of control, but we are scared to take it. What do I mean by that? Is once you are out of college and you, let's say you're making money in a job, right? Or you're in the process of figuring it out, you have a sense of independence to your actions. You're like, you have more freedom to do some stuff. Now, as you start making money, you also have freedom of how you spend it, like what you consume, right? The stuff that you eat, the stuff that you buy. As you go a little further in your career, right? Let's say 5 years into your career, you have way more control of where your life is headed. What kind of lifestyle do you want? Are you going to be working out? What kind of food are you going to be eating? But beyond that, who are you going to hang out with? Are you going to get married? Who's your partner going to be? Um, where do you live? What are you okay with and what are you not okay with, right? The graph that I'm trying to draw, like teenage to job, increasing sense of responsibility, but also increasing sense of control. Now, here's the thing, right? I think a lot of jobs are dehumanizing. And when I say dehumanizing, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying it doesn't put you in connection with the human side of yourself. So just as an example, now guys, I personally I have not had any terrible jobs. Like I've kind of avoided and made my way through. I've had difficult clients, but I just imagine like just the stereotype of like if I had to go through the exact experience that I went through when I was in 11th and 12th of studying for entrance exams and having my whole life being ruled by entrance exams. If I had to do that same shit in work once I got a job, like that was exactly what I was avoiding. I was like, I don't know if I was doing it intentionally, but I was avoiding that. I was like, I don't want to get into a job where I don't have control. And what I meant by control was like literally being told that you need to become an engineer, you need to do this, like you need to, like the sense of responsibility, and you feel powerless. But over time, you realize, hey, I should be getting more power in the sense that I should be able to control what I do. And the stuff that I do, I should be able to design my life. I think that's the word I was looking for. I need to be able to design my life. And that is a sense of responsibility. Like you now, like, I think to me mentally I place this in mid 20s or mid 20s onwards. You get the strong urge that you need to design your life. Like a lot of the excuses that I gave myself when I was younger, that I can't do this because I'm an introvert, or I can't do this because I don't have money, or I can't do this because I need to focus on this other stuff, a lot of that started dropping off. And let me show you guys something. This framework that kind of helped me figure this out was, forgetting what it was called. Mm, let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to find one thing. Okay. Mm, no, guys, I don't. I don't have the name for this. Okay, basically, I'll just tell you what I remember from it. We go in our life from survival, where a lot of our, like, just to be alive, we have to depend on our parents to survive, straight up. Like, they have to feed us, they have to keep us safe. We go from survival to a little bit of sense of security. At least that's what I remember. Sense of security, as in, like, as a kid, as a very baby, everything is a threat, right? Like, I mean, kids don't act that way, but just realistically speaking, you go from survival to some sense of security. You start feeling the sense of other people exist, right? A lot of teenage, when you're in your teenage years, you realize that, hey, I have to act a certain way in the world, and based on this, the world acts a different way towards me, right? There is this balance that you start feeling. Okay, guys, I don't want to go too so much into intellectualization, but basically, what it comes down to is, I think, late 20s, you realize your sense of place in the world. Okay. And you realize a lot of the excuses that you've been giving yourself, because, oh, I'm just a kid, or, oh, oh, I need to follow this rule. Like, for example, hey, I am the kind of person who does this kind of thing. Like, the discovery, there is a discovery process that you reach where you have to find who are you and who are you in relation to society, right? And that's a difficult one. Now, the reason I'm talking about all this is, how does design come into this? Design, for me, that it didn't feel stressful till, I tell you what felt stressful, till I was like, design, I need to achieve, right? For example, I'm not happy with what I have, or rather, what I have is shit. I need to now be here. This sense of, I am in a wrong place and I need to go to a better place, that was stressful, right? Like, just coming to terms with reality. But then I don't think that's just design, right? I think that's a general thing. So now, coming to the present moment, there's this realization that life is long, and there's this realization that everything that I thought was me, um, everything that I was like, oh, bro, that's you, that's so you, like, this is how you do things, that's how you are. A lot of those things started falling away, and I realized, hey, that's not me. That's just how I behaved in that environment, or that's how was my best way of surviving, or my best way of being in a certain environment. And the realization I just had was, there is a there is a very fluid sense of self when you allow yourself to feel that way. For example, I didn't allow myself to feel okay, right, when I was in my 20s, because I was like, you're not okay. You need to achieve way more before you are even allowed to feel okay. And yeah, I mean, there was some amount of suffering because of that. There was some amount of stress. We all go through things like breakups, family issues, identity crisis. I don't know where I was going with this, but the to center me right now, the topic of the stream, I just wanted to get this idea out there, which is, we need to be we need to be exploring, or let me not say need to be, right? For myself, I realized I need to stay connected to this idea of, again, I feel weird even saying this, right? There's no need to. I just realized the world is fucking weird. Okay. And if, even if I feel like I've understood what the world is, or if I create some model of the world is this way, I'm going to get fucked. I'm going to get screwed because the world is not a static thing. So the idea that the world is weird, is it possible to stay normal? The bigger realization is our sense of normal, we can't stay, we can't grasp onto the idea of normality and just be like, please, 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 like, oh my God, I hope things don't change, because if things change, it questions my sense of status. Like, it questions, like, I question my sense of identity. I feel like my life is fading away. Like, we can't have a tight grip on reality and life like this, right? Because the minute we think we have it, we realize that what we have here is a fixed identity or this fixed view of how things should be. But that doesn't exist. Um, what exists is the movement, what exists is the flow, right? And so, something that I now strongly, so for example, somebody asked me, what's your New Year resolution for this year? And I felt a little bit embarrassed giving the answer, but my answer is, fuck, I really need to figure out, again, fuck, I really need to. I don't know why I keep using this language for myself of authority. Like, I need to do this. Like, who is telling me I need to do this? It's me, right? So let me rephrase that. What I realized is I need to figure out emotional fluidity, because, yeah, I don't have the words for this. It's a little uncomfortable for me also to be doing this stream when I don't know what I'm going to say. Right. And so the thing that keeps coming to my mind is, what the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you saying? Like, make a point, be authoritative, make a clear statement. Okay, let's take a break. Okay, I'm gonna read some chats. Hey Abnox, good evening. Good evening, bro. Good evening. Spiritual design. You know what? There's a comment on that thing, which is somebody was like, bro figured out spiritual design. But really, if you think about it, think about it, okay, bro really experienced, like we talk about this idea of experience design. Think about that, guys. Our job is experience design. We're supposed to be designing experiences. But at some point, I don't know, I don't know when I felt this, or it's not a continuous thing for me, but sometimes I'm like, yo, what's the range here? What's the range here? What kind of experience can we really design? And I think for Abhay, something I was listening to his interviews, and I think Abhay's master's was in communication design, right? And so, communication design, in fact, you will see a lot of that in his portfolio, right? Like, communicate, like he's got a lot of course, short films and photography, but his master's was in communication design. And so, one of the things he said in the interview, right, is he was like, I wanted to figure out what was the story. What was the story of life? Because if I can find the story, I can find my place in it, and now I know what to do. And the interviewer, the NDTV or whatever interview was like, हाँ तो और बताइए सर आपकी girlfriend नहीं हुई है. But I was stuck on that. I was like, yo, what if as a communication designer, right, you're responsible for stories and narratives. What if you connect yourself to the main story? What if you figure out the main story? And suddenly all your communication design flows downstream from there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it made me laugh because I could see I could just see it. And the thing is, a lot of times when I've said shit like this, right, like to people, they're like, bro, are you okay? Like, are you, like, um, even some of the responses here, right? They're like, bro, People are saying, um, people label him as mad, but actually he's wise. Bro escaped the matrix. And like, sad case of mental illness. Well, I wish mental help was more readily available. We might not know what the full story is, but I think this is a unique moment in time where, like, I just can't stop thinking about this, bro. Like, the fact that this guy was a UI UX designer, and in the end, it can't be said in words, right? Like, I just I watched the interviews and I can't stop laughing because this is so absurd. Like, there's a strong sense of absurdity in this. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this, okay? The other sense of absurdity here, talking a little bit intellectual, like, Abhay has been constantly creating content on his Instagram for very few followers, right? Today, though, all those this thing has have become lore, so people are going and watching his old stuff. But I watched one of his old videos. He's playing the flute, and I think at the time he had a couple hundred followers or a couple thousand followers, right? I'm not saying I found it early. I found it a comment or whatever, and yeah, it's so absurd. Um, I just can't put words to it. It just and here's the thing, right? Um, okay, let's ego stops, remove ego. Yeah, I think this idea we were talking about earlier, right? The sense of control, which is as a teenager, you have all this sense of responsibility. People are telling you you need to be a certain way, but you have no control over how to do things. Over time, you get a lot of control, and then what also builds up as you get more sense of control, at least talking from my perspective, it's you get develop the sense of ego, which is like, bro, I am right, or I am wrong, and this fixed view about yourself. um but something I've realized now that I'm 30, I'm 31 now, is I have a strong feeling that a lot of stuff that happened in my life wasn't in my control. Like, yeah, I tried hard to make things happen, but then a lot of stuff that happened, I just could not have predicted it. Like, I just happened to be there in the right moment, right? So this idea, so let's see, the Vedant says, I think it'll be okay to be normal if we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think this not taking ourselves too seriously, peak absurdism, um, idea of ego, is realizing how, okay, I don't know what to say. Mayur says, I want to say that he experienced something higher which pulled him over. Why would anyone leave such a good life? See, I like that you said this, Mayur, because here's the thing. Why would anyone leave such a good life? Mayur, what's a good life? Right? What's a good life? Because the point is, on a long enough time frame, we are all going to achieve what we wanted. Think about this for a sec, right? The reason I also, you know, something like UI UX design, becoming a designer versus something like writing the JE, the other difference here is the JE is a selection criteria, right? It selects for a certain group, but design, it's not just the pure achievement game, right? Design is not a pure achievement game. It's a creation game with an achievement game baked in. What do I mean by that? I mean, nobody can stop you from becoming a designer. Nobody can stop you from becoming a designer. If you put in the time and actually create stuff, have a sense of curiosity and build upon it. Yes, it requires time that you put in. It might also require sacrifice based on where you are in your life. You might have to say no to some other things to be able to focus on one specific thing. But nobody can stop you from becoming a designer, right? So design is a very accessible field that way. However, here's the opposite side of that. The opposite side of it is that we can make, as humans, we can make anything an achievement game. Even the idea of spirituality, for a lot of people, spirituality is a achievement game. Like, oh, I am better than this other person because I am like enlightened or something. But actually, that's not real spirituality, right? In the same way that achieving as a designer, like getting a job at a startup everybody knows, that's success of some sort. But then that's no guarantee that you're a good designer. That just means you played the selection and the achievement game within it. At the same time, the zoomed out view is that there is no definition of success, right? It's that the reason achievement games exist is because there is a certain tournament around achieving specific outcomes. Does that make sense? Kanishk says, how do you avoid mental masturbation? First, I thought it was meant, how do you avoid mental maturation? It was like, how do you avoid mental masturbation? Here's the thing, right? Mental masturbation is a real thing. But, okay, I see another comment. Spirituality and minimalism leads to mental masturbation among normies when they're new to that lifestyle. And here's why. Here's why I feel, here's my POV on this, right? How do you avoid mental masturbation? The point is, or let me pose a question to you guys first. Are we the mind? Are we the mind in a body? Or are we a body that happens to have a mind? Think about that. Because if you think you are a mind and you happen to have a body, then you're going to think like, oh, my mind has to get me out of everything. My mind is the one who's controlling all this. And so mental masturbation, which is, it doesn't feel like mental masturbation. It feels like survival. You're just thinking to survive. How do you avoid mental masturbation? I see again, I have no authority to say all this, right? I'm just doing this because it's a fun exploration, right? I'm not saying I'm an authority on this. How do you avoid mental masturbation? You realize that, bro, how many times are you going to fucking come? Like, in the end, we have to inhabit this body, but also we have to find our place in the world. And so, mental games are just that, a certain type of game. Something I was going to say, okay, is forgot what I was going to say. Forget, I'm just going to let it go. Maybe it'll come back to me. But Nishant says, I always knew life is a big tournament arc. Really, life can become a tournament arc if we really let it. So, for example, achievement game, right? Like what I say, achievement game. School to college to job to bigger job to bigger job. You know, this idea of midlife crisis. You know, guys, the thing is, you and I, you're on this stream, you're watching this. We live a much faster life than our ancestors or even just one generation back, right? Like our parents. And when I say faster life, it's not that we are cool or something and we're playing things fast. It's just that the world is, there's more happening in the world per unit second than it was in the previous generations. And so I do think it's a little bit like this idea of midlife crisis. You know, people say, oh, quarter life crisis. The point is just that these games that we are playing, right? Like the achievement game, the tournament game. Like, see, guys, in the end, I am not here to take my words with a grain of salt, right? I'm not saying leave everything and don't do. Like, in the end, you got to do something with your life, right? Whatever that might be. And I'm also not saying design is meaningless. I think there's a lot of meaning. Actually, I'll tell you what's the most meaningful part of design, to talk about it for a sec. I think the most meaningful part of design is the fact that You get to do something that other people interact with. Like, you get to design an experience that gets to be a part of somebody else's life. The other fun part about design, the deep meaning in life, is all of us, we feel on an everyday basis hundreds of emotions, right? Or a whole range, let's just say. And design gives us the tools to be able to express some of these. So that's the meaningful part about design. But outside of that, the thing is, it's very important. And when I say important, I'm not saying from an authoritative important, right? I'm saying, don't you think it's very important that we really don't forget how to have fun with design? Like, I feel like the little bit of risk here of everything becoming so over intellectualized. You guys see that, right? Like, in the sense that there's hundreds of competing narratives on every single feed. Like guys, just even the concept of doom scrolling, you're blasting yourself. I mean, we both do it. We're blasting with all these inputs, right? These sense inputs and all these. It's very mental game. Like, it's like mental warfare, right? Soham says thumbnail 10 out of 10. Ah, oof. Do you think, Kev says, do you think our mind is also designed in a particular way that we can interact with our life? I do think so. And you know how I'm thinking about this right now? I'm thinking, see, our mind is also designed in a particular way. See, our mind is not designed, okay? So that I'm trying to think a little bit intellectually, right? Before I tell you how I feel about this. Intellectually, I'm like, so that we can interact with our life. The thing is, guys, the other joke that came to mind when I was thinking about this is, bro literally found the interface to God. Bro literally found the interface to God, in the sense that when we think of our place in the world, we are not living in base reality in some ways, right? Like, our perception of, like, our sense of being in the world is filtered by a lot of what the mind says. So, for example, we might see something and feel negative about it, and somebody else sees that and feels just, oh, that's a neutral thing. Why are you? But looking at a certain thing might bring a sense of fear, right? But then that's an interface to the real world, right? And the real world is a little bit, again, I don't know what the real world is. And I'm not saying this from a having figured it out. Our mind, our body, the way we, like, our sense in the world, there is a experience that we have, and the interface in some ways is our sense organs, it's our processing, it's also our body. So me at 3 a.m. Me at 3 a.m. Guys, me at 3 a.m. Guys, what's the interface to God? How can I design? Am I in God's acquisition funnel, or have I dropped out? Is there a moment of activation? Just kidding, guys. The world is weird. Let the stream be weird. Don't hold back. Yeah, exactly. Um, I did the last two streams, all this design career counseling, and I had a lot of fun. Let me just say, it's very satisfying. Uh, It's very satisfying to know that the world wants something and you can actually help in that direction, right? Like this idea of creating value, creating value, right? We talk about this all the time in design, like design and startups as well. The idea of creating value in the world, right? Like let's make the world a better place. And the problem with having a career where you have to constantly create value is that I'm going to let that thought fly. All right. I'm going to let that thought fly. What I was going to say is that the idea of having a job where you're responsible for creating value in the world, like the kind of pressure or just the lore that we have as UI UX designers, which is having to create products that people use that make people's lives better and makes the world a better place. At some point, you realize how absurd that is, mostly because, not even absurd, right? That's not the word for it. You realize that, hey, if that's the goal, then is this single pointed view of capitalism and forming companies and like raising money, and then is that the is that the only way? And I think this opposite, like, it's not, I don't think it's stress that leads somebody to this kind of path of hermeticism. I think it's seeing the fakeness in things, right? Like, what's going on here? Navneet in the chat. What's going on, Navneet, is we're just chatting, you know. What's up, design athlete? Sup, homie? You need to be abnormally obsessed for design excellence. You're not wrong about that, bro. And I think one thing that I realized over time is that this excellence, it doesn't look like anything, in the sense that we assume we have to do certain things that we see other people doing and we have to do it. But excellence literally, like, in my opinion, means finding that, being in tune with your body. Like, now I know it feels a bit weird to say that, it doesn't feel very logical or rational, but this abnormal obsession, right? What I just realized is it can take any path, and it will not look like what you imagine, right? So for example, like, I know we're talking about this as like the core thing that we keep going to. I think this is, you know, I think this is normal. I think the fact that we think it's weird is reflects more on us. I think this is actually very, very normal. And you know what? I know that there is a certain sense of mysticism about around IITians, right? But then I've known so many folks from IIT in my life, right? Like, just having come across them over the last 10, 12 years. And a lot of them are like this. Like, the thing about IITians, and here's the thing, right? It's not anything to do with IIT. It's that when you apply yourself in any field, eventually you run against the edges. And when you run against the edges, you realize that, hey, I have to either find the path after this, or I have to accept these boundaries. And so the fact that an IITian became a sadhu is actually not a big deal. Like, I am literally right now thinking of somebody else who also went to IIT Madras. It's a friend of mine. I haven't spoken to him in a while. I should hit him up. And the point is, that curiosity, or that sense of sacrifice and hard work that got you to clear something like an entrance exam. Like, bro, are we like, is it really, like, Is it so hard to believe that achievement is not just becoming the CEO at Microsoft and Google and becoming a LL7, that cracked guy at Amazon who understands all the code and all this? Like, is it really so hard to believe that somebody who's from IIT needs to go down this path? I think in the end, what IITs are selecting for, and again, it has nothing to do with IIT, right? In the end, it could happen to any of us, and really, this is a bit of a litmus test, right? Like your reaction to this tells you a lot about how you like about your values. Like this could happen to any of us, right? But okay, let's see some chats to stay a little grounded. We're all under a digital deluge where the unending flood of information in a world of finite time leads to overwhelming and anxiety. Wow, bro. You said it better than I could have. That's good. And we are, right? Just logically speaking, right? Talking about this world being weird. Today, we live in a magical world. We live in magic, bro, like in the world of magic, in the sense that we have a remote control for life. It's our phone. Our phone is a remote control for life. We can make things happen in the world by pressing a couple buttons, right? The point is, we don't call it magic anymore because that's I guess that's weird. But really, the experience, talking about experience design, so the experience of being a human today is very different from how it's ever been in the past. And I'm sure the past, I'm not saying it's better or worse, right? I'm saying it's very different. I'm sure there are similarities in the end because we do have our biological systems which a little bit predictable in a certain way. But it's not really weird, right? And oh, Amit, perfect example, right? Acharya Prashant. Now, Acharya Prashant, somebody who's from IIT IM spiritual channel. Here's the thing about Acharya Prashant, right? Since we are talking about it, the thing that strikes me about Acharya Prashant, I have watched his videos every once in a while. I love watching his Hindi videos, especially. He is so to the point. You know what strikes me about Acharya Prashant? It's about how relentless he is, bro. The guy uploads twice a day. In fact, more than twice a day. I think he uploads 3 or 4 times a day. He is somebody who I feel like doesn't even sleep, right? And so that level of obsession, I know, having been obsessed with things in my life, I know that the source of obsession is not society telling you to do something, or the source of obsession is not even I want to achieve something crazy, I want to make a lot of money. That might happen as a byproduct of obsession, but the source of being obsessed is actually something deeper. And I don't want to do a disservice by putting words to it, right? Like it's this, like I don't want to say that the minute you say it's this, you're saying it's also not the other things, right? So I don't want to, but yeah, Acharya Prashant, great example. Hey Zainab, what's up? Perfect time to be here today. Very in the zone for this convo. Yeah. Hmm. Whew. Mayur says, I think he realized that true fulfillment lies beyond worldly achievements. What's your take on it? My take on this, Mayur, is don't believe anyone. That's my take on this, right? Do not believe somebody else's version of reality. Don't believe my version of reality either. I'm just, here's why. We all don't live in the same world. We live in very different worlds. Yes, even physically, we might live in different cities. The people we spend time with, the things that we do, we all live in very different worlds. So, the idea that true fulfillment lies beyond worldly achievements can become a big trap. It can become a big trap. And I'll tell you why. It's because the minute things become difficult, you're going to be like, छोड़ देते हैं ये सब, ये तो वैसे भी सही नहीं था. And it becomes a sense of escapism. Now, again, I know this is all very subjective, right? So I'm not trying to be authoritative and be like, this is what it is. But I'm saying it's a good hypothesis, which is, I don't know if I think this is something to be verified. And I think as designers, a core part of our job, now I know I keep coming back to design, but in the end, that's the thing that's common between you, person watching this, and me, right? Like, to some extent. I think as designers, we have this thing of like this idea of problem solving, right? Like, firstly, I think the frame of problem solving, little bit, I don't like the word problem, right? It's not, a lot of things are not problems. It's just they could be better. Anyway, let's not get into the words, the semantics. I think it's a good hypothesis that fulfillment lies beyond worldly achievements. Yet at the same time, let's say personally, I want to achieve everything possible so that I can know for a fact with my own lived experience that that's actually true, or maybe it's not true. And then I know exactly what to do. And then I know exactly what's remaining because I have negated all the other things. There's this idea of, in Hindu philosophy, of neti neti. Like, um, is that what it's called? Forgetting the name. I'm not. See, guys, when it comes to the spiritual stuff, right? I have read a lot of stuff. It's just I'm not very good at intellectually explaining. Like, I can't tell you Sankhya philosophy mein it's neti neti, or that's the concept, right? Like, I don't remember this. But in general, the idea is not this, not this, not this. For you to find what is true, you need to actually prove that everything else is false, right? Like, that's a little bit of how I believe it. So my take on this, I said, don't believe it. Don't believe it till you can actually verify it. Like, even for me, um, I found it very funny. We were talking about this, and somebody's like, yo, uh, future path. I see the future. Inspiration. It is inspiration, to be very honest. Not from a sense of, not from a place of desire, but this is inspiration because somebody did it, and we get to learn from it. You like, it's probably the first time in the world, in the history of the world, that a UI UX designer found this path. Maybe not. Okay, maybe I'm just hyping this. But the sense of verification is needed. Cosmic Karma says, how much green smoke before coming here? See, Cosmic Karma, I'll be honest with you, okay? If I had smoked up before today's stream, I would not be able to talk. So the thing is, weed for me, it's a mixer for the mind. Like, for me, it like jumbles my thoughts, right? So I'm not very coherent, and I can't like make clear sentences and this kind of thing when smoked up. So the answer is actually zero. Um, what type of hobbies should a designer pursue that will help in the future or at work? Could you suggest some hobbies? The funniest thing, Ahmad, is I believe the world is so weird that we don't have hobbies anymore. Hobbies are a thing of the past. That's my belief. I'll tell you why. Because the minute, you know this, okay? All of you are going to relate to this hard, I think. The minute something becomes you start a hobby, you get good at it. Suddenly you start noticing everybody else who's good at it. Suddenly it starts feeling like an achievement game. And then you're like, yo, maybe I should start a YouTube channel about this. Maybe I should do a side hustle. Maybe I should monetize this hobby. Right. And so every hobby is kind of just a side hustle waiting to take its root. Right. So I kind of feel like, personally, and I'm not saying this intellectually, I'm saying this, that's been true for me. I find it so hard to have hobbies because the minute I even get slightly good at it, I start enjoying it. I'm like, let's productize this shit. Let's make a startup. Let's make a website. Let's do I don't know. So personally, Ahmed, I mean, the real answer is do whatever the fuck, right? The real reason why is because It's this idea that hobbies also, the idea of hobbies has become productized. We're not going to do something unless it brings us success. And so we want the world to tell us what to do. But the point is, free will doesn't exist. You have to exercise it to make it exist. Now, this is not a design career counseling stream. That's why I'm giving you the slightly abstract answer. But guys, the purpose of a hobby is not to help in the future or at work. The purpose of a hobby is a way to kill time. And here's the thing, when we are in our early 20s, it feels like we don't have time to kill. Why? Because the world today is way faster. Like, just imagine this, guys. Like, actually, you don't have to imagine, you can feel this. In the last couple days, Trump took the position. Do you guys know about the Trump meme coin? If you had put some money in the Trump meme coin, you would have had a couple $100,000 today if you had done it at the right time. But there was a good chance that Trump got hacked, and so you could have lost all the money you put in. Now, why am I making this point? It's because it's a tough time to be like, it's a tough time to be committed to anything. Because the minute you commit yourself, you're like, I'm going to become a good designer, I'm going to become a good career person, like whatever that is. The absurdity of the world is like, bro, fuck, you missed the meme coin. Like, oh, that guy that you know, he made $1 million in 24 hours. What were you doing? You're studying the blade. Literally, you're studying the blade. But here's the thing, right? A hobby will always feel weird if you have the sense of, I want something from it. That's expectation. And that's not a real hobby. That's I mean, in the end, I don't know what a real hobby is, right? I'll be honest, guys. I don't have hobbies. Like, I either work or I'm recovering from work. Recovering from work, either it's a burnout type of thing or it's just that, bro, fuck, I can't. And that's not to say that I work very hard or something. I'm not. I probably I probably studied harder in college. Nah, maybe that's not true. Okay, point is, I don't have any hobbies. At least that's what I think so. Even the hobbies that I do have, right? I'll give you an example. Recently, I started collecting iPods, like iPod classics, like these broken iPod classics. I find it from some electronics dealer in Bangalore. And I found a guy who knows how to fix these iPod classics and refurbish them. And he orders parts from China and he puts all this together. And in fact, in at Silicon Halli, let me show you guys a picture of this just to make it, just to be specific. Now it might take me some time to load, but anyway, I started collecting iPods. Okay, and I thought it was a hobby, but obviously it's a bit of an expensive hobby in the sense that buying these, yeah, they are old iPods, but you still have to pay for them, and now I'm paying for these parts to get shipped. I'm paying the assembly cost with like this actual hardware engineer who's doing all this work for me. Let me show you guys a photo of this. One sec. Mm, check this out. Now, yeah, this is a bit low quality image. This is what I could find. But this is real, by the way. This is not a render. We actually printed this box, this hardware. It's in the office, okay? We actually made purple iPods. We ordered parts from China. We put it together. We loaded it with the music from the 10K designers playlists. This album artwork that you're seeing here, we actually loaded these PNGs through that cable such that when you scroll the click wheel, it scrolls through all of the album artwork or all the cohort artworks. Now, somebody asked me, hey, what's your hobby? And I said this, okay? But then, guys, already I'm like, fuck, should I monetize this shit? Like, people are like, where are you getting these iPods? And I don't have enough of them to sell. But now I have a few. And I mean, I don't have them yet. They're still in the process. There's a full supply chain, right? These parts are coming from China. This guy's waiting and exports and all this. Now I'm like, fuck, I should monetize this. I should start an Instagram page where it says old iPods and refurbish and all this. The point is, bro, who cares? I don't want to do that. Like, and maybe I will, right? But work, that's the thing. That's the work. That's the world we live in today. Everything becomes work. Everything becomes work eventually. And I think, see, again, I don't think we should resist this. Like, I think if we resist that, we're like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to let this become work. Like, for example, um, if somebody has a hobby and I tell them, bro, you should monetize this. Why don't you make a YouTube channel? Why don't you start making reels? I know some people who would abuse the shit out of me. They'll be like, fuck you. This is fun for me. How dare you say this shit? Like, I don't want to monetize. Like, don't put this. Anyway, hobbies don't exist anymore, guys. Isn't that weird? Unless we make the effort to make them exist. And even then, the minutes we get successful at something, we're like, we can make a podcast out of this. We can make a YouTube channel out of this. We can make reels out of this. Because in the end, the urge we have, I don't know if you realize this, or rather, I don't know if it's that obvious, but the urge, little bit in this weird world, is to find something that makes money in a weird way that nobody can take away from you, and to have full freedom and control and whatever. Maybe not though, and maybe not. For me, the purpose of my hobby is to go in a flow state. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. The challenge, though, right, is for me, I've found much more like A plus flow states, right? Like A plus flow states when I was making money from them. So like for me, the design flow states were so fun that the non-monetized flow states started feeling boring. Yeah, it's funny though. It's funny. Why life is overwhelming, bro. Is it? Is it? Or do we make it that way? Is life actually overwhelming? Or are we trying to be a headmaster to ourselves in our head? Oh, headmaster. Do this, do this. Is life really overwhelming? Sup, Nishant? You can say none of this matters and be sad about it. Feel like life is pointless for the rest of your days. Or you can say none of this matters and do whatever the hell you want with your life. Yeah. That's the thing, right? We have this realization a lot of times through different experiences that nothing matters. At the same time, we can't stop existing because of that, right? We still have to go and do something. So then the choice that we have is to exercise our free will. Like nothing matters, but can I find something that matters to me? But again, we live in a capitalized world, right? So suddenly becomes a side hustle, and suddenly it becomes a gig, and then it becomes a career, and then you have expectations of success. Is doing something. That's the thing about design, no? We all start design because it's a fun thing to do, or at least it's fun in comparison to the other shit that we've been forced to do. We start making money, which is awesome, but then eventually we get used to it, and then we're like, fuck, bro, like I'm not achieving enough. Like I think we have this, and I think maybe it's also an India thing. We live in a bit of a achievement focused society, right? Like I'll be honest, when I speak to, like when I was in Europe, I would speak to people, and if I accidentally, I'll say something, okay, like I don't know what to do next in my career. Accidentally, I'll say this in front of a European. You know what answer I'm gonna get? The answer I'm gonna get is, what's a career to you? And I'll say, okay, I think like my job and my next job or my business, and immediately the question they say or the thing they say becomes, okay, and what else? What about the parts of your life that are not work and not business? How do you feel about those? And I'll think about it and I'll be like, huh, in my whole in this I was so immersed thinking that everything is an achievement game that I forgot there is another, there's something else. There is, I think that was the fun part about living in Europe, talking to these folks, which is, on one hand, it makes like one feeling I would judge them sometimes, right? I would be a little bit judgmental sometimes. I'd be like, bro, get serious, like make money, like fucking, what are you doing? And then I would notice that, and I'd be like, actually, this person's happy. They're doing what they like. They're hanging out with their childhood friends. Yeah, I mean, maybe they have a social net of, you know, like, yeah, I mean, we love to say, oh, the Europeans, they have a safety net. They're gonna get pensions and all this, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, what's a career? Who the fuck? Nobody in India has ever asked me what's a career. We just assume like, oh yeah, of course, that's the main thing in life, right? That's the main gig. Osho designs. Osho designs. Um, I think in a different world, Osho would be a UI UX designer. What would you do if money were no object? I don't know because money is an object, right? To me, another question Europeans say, okay, when I'm talking, I'd be like, man, I miss India because I feel like I'm not doing enough in my career. Like, fuck, all this AI stuff is happening, and AI stuff is happening, and my friend, he started a YouTube channel and he's viral now and he makes AI reels. And this other friend of mine, he raised money for a startup, and this other edtech founder, he's starting a physical college. My He was my PM, and now he runs a engineering college. And absurdity, right? Which is, I forgot. I got so lost in this story, I forgot what I was going to say. Um, I was going to say the European folks, and then, okay, whatever. Uh, I don't know what I would do if money were no object because money is an object. And yeah, what I was going to say is I would say all this story, and then I would say, I feel like I'm not doing enough. And my underlying fear is maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm just not good enough to be a founder. Maybe I'm just not good enough to whatever next level of achievement game or next plus two levels of achievement game. Maybe I'm not good enough for that. And you know what the response I would get was, what does it feel like to be enough? What does enough feel like? I don't know. Hmm. You know, I was speaking to a founder friend of mine. Now, of course, I can't give you names. No need. Speaking to this founder friend of mine, he was talking about the difficulty he was going through, and we were just having a personal one-on-one chat. And he's like, bro, I hate feeling this way. He was talking about a very specific type of stress that he had in his company. He's like, bro, I hate feeling this way. I wish I could pay to make it go away. And life doesn't work that way. You can't avoid the things that feel uncomfortable. At the same time, I don't believe in this whole thing of seek discomfort for the sake of it. Like, I don't believe that shit, bro. I want to be cozy. I don't want to seek discomfort, whatever, for some meme. But I feel like life would be easier if instead of bracing, you know what bracing means? Like, let's say you're like, it's your, okay, a brutal example, right? You're driving a car, suddenly you see somebody take a wrong turn or something, and suddenly your body goes like this, like bracing for it, like bracing for impact. You guys know what I'm saying, right? I realized I was bracing for so many things that weren't even there, that might happen in the future, but I was bracing for it today. And because of that, I was like, and then I learned this thing from somebody I look up to. And basically, the thing they said was, what's the difference between bracing and embracing? And I was like, yo, like, I'd never put the two together. But yeah, brace and embrace really are the opposites, right? Like you're bracing for something, you're like, fuck, this thing is scary, or I don't want to feel inadequate. I don't want to feel like I'm a failure. I don't want to feel like this. And you're bracing, like your levels and levels and levels and levels and levels and levels. And you're in levels of bracing. But actually, the opposite of that is embracing. You're like, yo, I can't wait to feel that way because once I finish it, I'll be done with it. Like I can strike it off my list and then I can move on to the next thing. Screen time is high because no life outside screen and hobbies. I know what you mean, bro. My screen time in December, I think third week of December, in a week I was spending 22 hours on Twitter. That's almost one entire day of the week on Twitter. And then I did the math and it was like 3, 4 hours a day. And I was like, 3, 4 hours a day spent on Twitter is equal to one entire week, one entire day of the week spent on Twitter. I was like, what the fuck is Twitter? Firstly, it's not even Twitter, it's X. But I'll tell you what, right? When I was in Copenhagen, I felt the need to connect with what was happening in India, what was happening in Bangalore, what are the 10K designers people up to, what are my friends up to. And Twitter became my interface to the world. Like the way we interact with the world, right? The interface is our understanding of the world, the filters and biases. The interface is our body, like, you know. But increasingly, the screen is an interface to the world. The screen tells us what's going on in the world. Like we don't feel it, we don't see it with our own senses. We are told so from the screen. At the same time, if I talk to somebody older, right? Not parents or somebody like this, it's like you need a hobby. What the fuck is a hobby, man? If I get good at a hobby, I'm gonna want to monetize that. um, okay. Tired of remote work, not getting to meet folks in person sucks. Ritvik, I know exactly what you're talking about, bro. Last 4 years, I've been working remotely from Copenhagen. Now I'm back to Bangalore. The best part about it was Freedom, freedom, structure, no structure, some structure, living life on my own terms, independence, no parents to tell me, no society, samaj, I have found a way to make money from the internet. Woo! But the real thing of value is the connection, isn't it? Like, are we really so career minded, or is it that career has become the way we connect with the world, and what we are actually after is the connection? Yet, all the sources or all the ways of doing it, career starts becoming the way. So, should we brace or embrace? Now, guys, talking about AI, all right? AI, I really feel like this brace or embrace, guys, we should not brace for AI. I think that's fucked up. That's so fucked up. The fuck should we brace for AI? Like, oh, fuck AI. At the same time, what the fuck does it mean to embrace AI? That's so weird. I'm not going to go hug a robot, right? But I think what it's about is our internal state, the way we respond to things. I think brace is being in a sense of fear. Embrace is being in a sense of love. Love is expansive. Fear is contractive. So, what's the better approach? What do you feel better doing? Because brace and embrace are not real things, right? We're describing an internal state when we're talking about brace or embrace. So, they're not real, at least material world. It's inner. Should we brace? Should we embrace? I don't know. What feels better? I'm not scared of AI. And again, there's nothing to do with AI. It could be for anything. But I'm trying to embrace. I'm trying to be open to stuff. What does enough feel like? Deep thoughts. Enough feels like meditation. Your breath is the only truth. Something that's helped me is recognizing, am I stuck in my head? Am I connected to the gut? It feels very weird. But, we talk about this idea of intuition in design. Intuition, does it feel good? I don't think intuition is a mental process. I think it's a gut process, right? And when I say gut, I'm not saying abstract, like, oh, feel it. I'm saying literally in your stomach. Intuition is in your stomach, like in your gut. Um, Again, I'm not saying this from a position of authority, right? I'm not a scientist. And I wish, bro. Uh, folks like Varun Maya, Siddharth Warrior, these guys are so good with the biological terms. Like, I'll say like, oh, you know what? Decisions are made in the emotional center of the brain, and so to make good decisions, we have to feel our emotions. And that sounds like, bro, what the fuck are you saying? But the minute you're like, oh, amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, and then this does that, suddenly it feels like, oh, fuck, you're so right about that. I don't know. The reason I don't talk about this kind of stuff, spirituality, or I just don't have the words for this stuff, man. Like, and I don't know. Yeah, what I do know is when I breathe from the gut, it feels good. Like, I know relief, the feeling of relief comes from the gut. Like, ah, when we say that, it's from the gut. Okay, guys, we're not really working towards some kind of goal or outcome here, right? We're just enjoying, we're just vibing on this stream. So I'll cut the stream when it feels like Enough. What does enough feel like? What's a career to you? Strong mind can power through when the body is weak, but a weak mind trips no matter how strong the body is. Yeah, true. Sophisticated words makes people ask less and agree more. And we know why, right? If I say, oh, it's the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, suddenly you have a word for it. Like, in computer science, there's the idea of pointers. Like, pointers point to a, fuck the definition, but the idea of pointers, right? It's not the variable by itself, but it's a pointer to an address. I think a lot of words are like that. Like, just somebody, when they describe it with sophisticated words, it's like, oh, I have the address to that feeling. And I know that I can use these words to feel that way. But that doesn't stay. I think like something I learned from in education, right? Like being in the educational field on academy and all this. Like I read a lot of stuff around that. True learning, like if you want to really solidify your learnings, you can read about it. That's just the first level. Or you can discuss it with people because suddenly now you are putting it into words, right? So social experience really helps. And the third level is when you can actually feel the learning. And what that means is hands on. Like, can I do something hands on? So the thing is, when we consume stuff on the internet, we're not consuming body stuff. We're not consuming embodied knowledge. We're consuming mental knowledge. So when we use words, it's an address to a certain thought or a certain idea. But that address, the idea can move. The words can mean different things. But real reality, like something that you will not ever forget, like it for sure, I think it happens in the body. And unfortunately we can't consume body stuff, right? Like in like physical experience, like for example, even a simple example would be watching a video about design versus actually designing. Now, is one better than the other? Well, you probably need to do both. So it's not a good idea saying I'm not going to do that. Be open to both. But then doing designing, that's actually way more, you will remember things versus just watching stuff. Hmm. Do you think, okay, Mayur, all right, getting into the tough questions, huh? Do you think spirituality is a waste of time or it makes sense in some way? What do you think, bro? What do you think? I have an answer. I'm just thinking of how do I say it. But I think this answer can't be told, right? It can only be felt. Or am I bullshitting? Let's let's dissect, okay? Let's dissect the words here. Because in the end, you and I here, here's the thing, guys. You watching this, me saying this, we are interfacing with each other through words. But also there is silence between the words, right? So I'm making emphasis. But anyway, point is we just have words to communicate at the moment, right? So cutting these words apart, do you think spirituality is a waste of time? The point is, the answer depends on what you think time is for. Is time a resource to be used? Well, kind of, right? The time we use, the things we do, kind of determines the path we end up on or the path we take. Now, something my mom or relatives or whatever, I would hear this very often. talking about spirituality, or whenever it came close, they'd be like, ये time नहीं है, ये तेरा time नहीं है, ये सब कुछ करने में, बाबा बनेगा क्या? Go study. Time, time नहीं है. What's a good use of time? Can you say a good use of time is if I get something out of it? Is that a good use? If I study, I spend my time studying and I get marks, it's a good use of time. If I study and I still get bad marks, is that a good use of time? But here's what it comes down to, right? What's a good use of time? What does enough feel like? Is something a bad use of time if it doesn't go anywhere? Like, I can tell you this. Let's get real with an example. If you're spending 3 hours in front of Figma, and then at the end of the 3 hours, you look at what you've created and you just look at it. Now, somebody else looks at it and they're like, wow, that's cool. Suddenly you're like, wow, it's a good use of time. Somebody said I was cool. In fact, they said my work was cool, but I felt good. Now, a second person sees this and they're like, oh, 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 um, keep going. They make this face. What do you feel like? You're like, fuck, I'm useless. I just spent 4 hours. Now my Saturday is gone. And now I have created this thing. And this person said, oh, keep going. What I wanted them to say was, that's awesome. That's great. You're cool. But now I feel like it's a bad sense of time. So, yeah, you're right. Random says, I feel like how we spend our time is influenced by people around us. But does it have to be? Does it have to be? If somebody says, bro, that's cool, suddenly we feel good. Somebody says, no, we feel bad. So the question, waste of time. What's the value of time? Now, if you had joined any other stream on my channel except for this one, any other channel, any other stream, you know what I would have said? I would have said, Mayur, you're in your early 20s, or maybe you're 18, 19. Padhai karo, bro. Go work on Figma. The first thing you do will not be good. The second thing, you will be slightly better. And if you don't give up, the third thing will give you some sense of excitement. Oh, it's wow, I'm heading somewhere. And then if you just don't stop, if you just keep going, like have some faith in the process, you're going to get a job. You're going to find cool people. You're going to create good work. That's the logical, rational way to think about this, right? In the end, guys, nothing is outside of our reach. Yes, if we play limited games like JE JEE tournament, in the end, only one person can win the tournament, right? Not really. The JEE, there's ranks. But outside of that, really what it comes down to is, as a designer, you have to have some courage to keep going. Courage. What is courage? Courage doesn't mean saying fuck you to fear. Like, oh, I don't feel fear. No, 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 no. Man, I'm gonna David Goggins mode. That's not courage. Courage is feeling the fear and not letting it stop you and still doing it. And I'll tell you this, guys, any design project needs a lot of courage because you're starting from zero, you're starting from a blank canvas. You're thinking about what will happen next. Am I doing the right thing? What are people going to say? But the point is, what's more important is that you do the thing, right? Courage, and I like this framing, which is critic says courage equals guts. Now, it doesn't equal guts, but courage is felt in the gut. I'm not, and that's not woo, by the way, right? Think about this. When you feel fear, where do you feel fear? Do you feel fear here? Kind of, right? You're intellectualizing, you're thinking about what will happen. If this happens, then what will I do? If that other thing happens, then what will my parents say about this? Fear can feel intellectual, but really, when you first feel fear, have you noticed it's always in the gut? You feel a tightness in your stomach. Have you felt that? I don't know if that's universally true, by the way. That's just for me. But courage and guts, like guts, what does it mean, right? It's in your gut. What it means is you fully feel that and then you act anyways. You don't stay stuck, right? There is a how how a neurologist would say this is, guys, as humans, we have a fight, flight, freeze, or feed response. I didn't know there was a fourth F, feed, by the way, which is when you're faced with a challenge, you fight, response number one. Flight, run away from there. Fuck this, I'm out. Freeze, the fuck am I gonna do? Loops, mental loops. You're frozen. You can't decide. You're like, fuck. Da, 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 da. Feed. What is feed? I do, when I'm scared, bro, I feed. I'm gonna go eat something. I'm gonna go feed, which is like, oh, I don't want to feel this weird feeling in my stomach. Let me go eat something. I'm gonna distract myself. I'm gonna stand in front of the fridge. Anyway, why am I saying all this? Point is, it requires courage, right? Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and acting regardless. So, the question, do you think spirituality is a waste of time? It depends on what you think the value of time is. Now, brace versus embrace, right? Do I think time is a limited resource that I need to do this, otherwise it runs away? It feels like that sometimes, but I know this is not true. Um, Also, this spirituality, here's the here's the fucked up thing about spirituality, right? Spirituality, breaking down the word, is something that is in the spirit. What does spirit mean? Not atma, soul, like, yeah, that's synonyms kind of. In the spirit. But here's the thing, right? We approach spirituality from a consumption point of view. So we want to consume Osho's lectures. We want to consume Baba Ramdas. We want to go consume what are the different Indian philosophy and this, that. And that's not wrong because to us it feels like we're learning, which is great. But that's not spirituality. That's knowledge acquisition. And yes, you know, there is something like Gyan. Like Gyan can get you very ahead. Then there's also Dhyan, which is your attention, your. See, again, guys, I don't have the words for this stuff. But spirituality, guys, watching Osho videos is not spirituality, right? Spirituality is being in touch with your spirit. You have to know what the spirit is. The spirit is not a word. I don't even think the spirit is a feeling. But here's the thing, right? The good news is that it's not a choice that we take. It's not a choice. Um, Whether we are spiritual or not, it's not really a choice. Um, I think connecting the dots to something we were talking about earlier, right? As a teenager, you have a lot of responsibility, but not too much control over your life. And then as you go ahead, like your first job or you're in college, you have some control in your life. And as you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, you're like, oh, all the things that I have done, they have resulted in this result. So it's in my control. But guys, as you get older, again, I don't know this for sure. I'm just feeling it a little bit at my limited level, right? At 31, I feel like my sense of control in the world is going down, not up. And in the sense that a lot of things that are happening in my life, I am not directly doing it. It's a result of what I've already done. Like I'm in a movement somewhat. And I think over we gain a lot of control in our life, but at some point we start giving up control. At least that's what I'm intellectually thinking, right? And so I don't think spirituality is a choice. I think spirituality is a word. What it really points to might not be a singular thing, probably not a singular thing. Enough. Enough only happens when there are no or very limited desires. Maybe, maybe, I don't know. Here's the thing though, right? I don't know what it's like to not have desires. So I maybe don't know what's enough. But I am at least glad I have this question. Hmm. At the end of anything is about Tao, spirituality, the Tao, the way. I don't know, man. I don't know. But here's what I can say, right? Virat Virat says, does your level of spirituality or the God you believe in affects your creativity or art? This is a question, um, very polarizing question, right? Because from our very rational sense of society, achievement, merit, right? You do things and that's how you earn things. And if you worked hard and you achieve, that's how we think about it, the model of the world. But we know examples like Ramanujan, for example. You know Ramanujan. It was revealed to him in a dream. He came up with these equations that we still don't know how to um, derive. And what did he say about it? He's like, Devi showed it to me in a dream. So does it affect? I think it's something to be discovered, right? Which is in the end, we're not going to get an answer by looking outside in the world externally and being like, but at least we know this. At least we know this, right? Let's remove the word spirituality. Remove also level of spirituality because that's the achievement game. I don't think spirituality is an achievement game. I don't know though. Just thinking. Let's also remove God because we have certain biases or but we do know that if you are in tune with yourself, it'll affect. Now, what does that mean? I'll give you a simple example, right? Let's say you're starting a design project. We're talking about creativity and art, right? So let's say you're starting a design project. Now, at this point, you could be thinking about all the ways it can go wrong. Like, what, bro, the client, I'm so scared of the client. I don't know what they're going to say. Or you're in a startup and you're like, fuck, bro, like, there's much bigger competitors than us. Like, really difficult. Or you want to launch an app and you're like, fuck, will this go viral? Will we be able to get users? Are we going to ever be able to make money? Now, all these questions can stop you from acting. But let's remember, let's say we're at the start of a creative process. Now, to make the next step in the creative process requires you to have some courage. So you're like, let's not think about the future. Let me think about the present right now. What do I need to do right now? I'll tell you one very common modality, right? Observe this. People are like, is this project good enough? Will, hey, Abhinav, I have this brief idea. Okay, like it's a feature idea or app idea, whatever. Is this good enough? Will this get me a job? Will this look good in my portfolio? Will recruiters be impressed by this? Um, what they're kind of asking is this a waste of my time if I do this? Is there something else? Can you just make it easy for me? Can you just tell me what to do so I don't have to think? It could be anything, right? Now, again, I'm not coming from a sense of judgment. I've been in the exact same position multiple times, right? But I do know this that I think I feel a Bhagavad Gita reference coming in, which is you need to focus on your actions, not the outcomes. फल की चिंता मत करो, कर्म की चिंता करो, right? And I hope at least intellectually you can realize that's so true for any creative project. If you're thinking about, will this go viral? I hope this is good. Actually, what that is it's your fear of acceptance. You're like, will people accept me? Or it's your fear of rejection. Like, what if I do all this and I don't get anything out of it? Or it might just be it's anxiety, right? In the end, it's preventing you from taking the action. You are not going to know whether any creative project is worth it, or will this be useful? Will this be a good use of my time? Will this make me popular? Will this make me money? Will this go viral? Will this be a good business? Will this get me a job? Will this get me? You don't know when you start. And so that way, the creative process is a massive act of courage. You're saying, I'm going to not suppress these fears. I'm going to feel the fears and act regardless. That's courage. And you know this as well. Like, that's just the start of a project, right? Now, a project, now again, I'm thinking more from a design process, but any creative project, you know that the first version is not going to be good typically. Like, I think the disservice that AI and all these ways of thinking are doing to us is we want a one shot results. Like, I want to put in money and I want to see the graph go up. Or I want to start designing a screen and by the end of it, I want to have a finished product. That's not how it works. That's absolutely not how it works. You have to start to find the next step, and then you have to find the next step after that. And here's the thing, you can't over intellectualize this, because the minute you start over intellectualizing, you're going to be stuck in that loop of thinking, overthinking, staring at a blank canvas. Now, can I say definitively that spirituality or God helps you go through this? I'll leave that up to you to find out. But here's the thing, right? It requires courage, and the outcome is never certain. But if you make it through, you at least have a chance to see what's going to happen. So approach it with a sense of wonder. Like the start of a project, it's exciting because you don't know what can happen. But if you are like negatively weighing in your head, oh fuck, am I going to get a job? Will this look good in my portfolio? Will the recruiters be impressed? That's not good. That's you planting a seed and saying, fuck, you better become a tree. You better give me fruits. You better. Is that the way to grow a plant, guys? Force it, like squeeze it out, like squeeze it and tree nikal jayegi usme se. No, right? You give it attention, you give it the resources, you water it, you nurture it, and that's when it starts to grow. Now, as it starts to grow, you have to look at it, you have to respond, and you have to give it what it needs. And then it grows further. You have to create the right conditions for it to be able to grow into a tree. Why don't we think about our creative process the same way? You can't squeeze a seed into a tree. You have to nurture it. So, any project, you have to have this kind of nurturing thing of like, bro, I need to be kind to myself, number one, which is all this pressure. Will this, that's doesn't work. That's not how it works. I need to be kind to myself that I can keep going. And beyond that, now let's think multiplayer for a sec. Beyond that, typically, anytime you're working on something, there are other people involved, right? So let's say if you're making music, you're not really going to think about will people enjoy this? Because in the end, you have to enjoy it first for it to even have a chance of people enjoying it. But let's say when you're talking about design projects, you might be you might be thinking, will the client like this? But here's the thing: you have to like it first, and to get there, you have to work. But then beyond that, will the client like it or not? You can't predict it. Yet, here's where the human side comes in. We assume it's about pleasing clients or it's following requirements or, you know, like we think very rationally, right? Like we're like, oh, our boss told us to do this and these are the requirements and the boss, the business goals and then the outcome achiever. Actually, what the point is if you as a designer can have a connection, like and very human, right? If you can have a connection with the other person, whether that's your teammate, you understand each other, you understand. I won't go deep into that. Maybe connection is a topic for another time. But you understand your client, you resonate with them on a personal level, maybe a little bit on a. That way, you can keep them in mind when you're designing, and when you eventually talk to them, it doesn't feel scary. Like for example, I know a lot of beginner designers. There's this idea of like fear, right? Fear manifests in different ways. Now, what we talked about earlier, fear. Now connecting this, like fear, literally comes from, or doesn't it? I'll pose it as a question rather than authoritative statement. Doesn't fear arise from the ego, which is we are fearing something will happen to us or to our sense of identity or to our relationship with the other person? So we really fear versus what's the opposite of fear? It's love in some ways, right? And again, I know this is woo, but again, this is not a design counseling stream, right? So the answer is yes, absolutely. Spirituality or God affects your creativity or art. Now, you know, for Devi to give Ramanujan a vision to produce these equations, like there's no way a rational mind can wrap itself around it. But then if you have a connection with Devi, I'm pretty sure you can make that happen too. Yet at the same time, you will not be able to explain it to your coworker how this happened. And the minute you try, they're gonna be like, "Bro, what the fuck you smoking?" Yeah. So Virat, good question, and yeah, the answer is yeah. Parash, yo, we've completely successfully completed session 0 as a cohort member. What should I do? Nothing, bro. Show up to session 1, and then it's session 2, and then it's session 3. Point is, that's gonna go. Like we're on that journey, right? So the next assignment as well, or rather the first Figma warm up assignment, that's gonna be dropping soon as well. So let's do that. Yeah. ब्रो मैं जिम होकर आ गया बट ब्रो स्टिल ऑन स्पिरिचुअलिटी गॉड डैम yeah, I know, right? Not really, just vibing. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap up really soon. Mayur says, Mayur, I like your questions and they don't annoy me, right? Like the reason why is um I had the exact same questions. And the thing is, I don't have the answers now. It's just, um, okay, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? What will happen after my death? Curious to know. So, your question was, do you ever get these kind of questions? And the answer is yes, I do. Hmm. Hey guys, nice stream today. Um, we I would recommend to you guys. Okay, I'm gonna put you on this. I want you guys to check this out. Again, not a prescription. It's not homework or something. I just found it very interesting, and so I thought it was interesting enough that we at least talk about it, even if it's not specific. The thing is, there's a lot of content out there. In fact, even his portfolio, right? Although it's not live anymore, bro is a sadhu, bro. Bro doesn't have time to renew domains, like straight up. But he's also got an Instagram where he does lives, so kind of fun. Yeah. Okay, guys. Chalo. We'll talk soon. I want to keep. See, for me, the lives, I'm gonna keep doing them. Okay. I don't know. Here's the thing, guys. I really. Why am I being so stressed? I can't talk about design in every single stream, right? So at the same time, if I force myself to do it, I'm not even going to do the stream. So every once in a while, I'm going to do some streams like this, just to keep a little bit the habit going. Because I think what's important is not really the words that I'm saying; it's more of the connection, right? Like we're able to explore something in this space, and then stream is over. So yeah, Shubham says, "Will there ever be a 10K designer service design cohort?" Now the thing is, Shubham, personally, um, short answer is no, but I can tell you why. I always thought, or rather, this is how I used to think before. Where I was like, yeah, let's grow the business. What's the growth? I got advice, and they said, hey, you have a UI UX design cohort. Now figure out the next one, which is a brand design cohort, graphic design cohort. Then do a third one, which is design systems. Then do the fourth one, which is service design. Fifth one, which is AI design. Then get into Web3 design and crypto, and then scale your courses. Right? That's the logical, rational way to grow an education business. But I can't do it. And not even like a little bit. I thought it was fear of failure or feeling like I'm not good enough and I didn't want to do it. But I realized that I don't want to, bro. Like, I don't know service design. Now, of course, I can take on the responsibility of finding a good service designer, designing an experience around it, and, actually selling a second course. And yeah, it would probably make money. But let's just say right now, it doesn't feel an alignment. It doesn't feel in alignment. So I don't want to do it. In fact, um, the UI UX design cohort, the only reason I've been able to take it all the way now to cohort 10 is because I've always, with every cohort, I've found a way to keep it fun for me. Like people ask me, don't you get bored teaching the cohort? No, absolutely not. It's so fucking interesting. Like, you know, more than that, how could I? Like, the people are new every single time. I get to actually feel like I'm making a difference. People actually get jobs out of this. Now, and design as a field is not static. So I can't get too comfortable in like, oh, I'm in a position of authority. Like I have to constantly keep learning myself. So long answer short, no, unfortunately not. Um, but yeah. Hmm. Cool guys. Okay. Thank you for joining today. I hope it gave you something to think about, or at least a relaxed experience where you could think about some stuff and now you can move on with your life, move on to the next thing that you have to do. I will continue these streams. The next stream will probably be next Monday. That's at least the schedule I've been following so far. But I'll keep you posted. You guys know the scene. You want to be notified about these streams. Of course, you've probably hit the subscribe button already. If not, go ahead. There's also the bell icon so YouTube notifies you when a stream happens. Today, I didn't feel like making a Discord ping. Normally, I would have pinged on Discord as well. Lot more people have joined. This one, I was just like, let's just do it. Didn't really want to announce it. But yeah, see you on another stream. Have a good rest of the week ahead. Take it easy. Bye bye.